Yasmina, how are you?
Good. It's starting the Monday, and you, Carmen, how are you?
I'm very happy. I'm trolling shortly, so this week is gonna be a rush for me.
And we actually have a great guest today, but of course, they do not want to know a lot about us. But first, we have to introduce each other. So, if you make the honor, Carmen.
Okay, so I want to introduce my co-host Yasmina. She's an amazing woman, and she's also a great professional, specializing in international property here at European Union. An amazing co-host, really. I'm so happy to have you here, Yasmina.
Thank you so much. And of course, I have to introduce Carmen. She's a great broadcaster with a great news that you have to follow in the descriptions and in social media because she's amazing. We have to say, but you're here to actually know our guests. So, are you ready for it?
Absolutely.
The build-up. Hello.
Nice to see you, Josh.
Thank you very much for having me.
We are really pleased to have you here.
Thank you. No, it's good to be here.
More on Monday, we have to say.
Yes.
Hey, Mondays are the best days, so
That's
Okay.
a lot of people doesn't say that, but of course, a lot of our audience doesn't know you. So the first question, of course, is going to be, please, Josh, who are you? Can you introduce a little bit about yourself?
of course. So my name is Josh Kingett. I guess I'm on this podcast because I'm the CEO or founder of X7 Esports.
You get well.
Yeah, in other worlds, my full-time job, I work as a cybersecurity engineer. So X7 isn't my full-time gig, as much as it feels like it sometimes. And eventually it will become my full-time job. Obviously, that's the aim. But it is very much the case of working a double life right now. I'm an esports enthusiast, cryptocurrency enthusiast, very into coding, cryptography, and things like that. So, yeah, that's about me.
Wow, that's pretty amazing.
It is. I think both of those things, when it comes to I love my cryptocurrencies and esports, really combine really well. But I wanted to go a little bit to talk about your past. Tell us a little bit about your background, how your career has been so far, and how did you become interested in esports?
So I grew up as a gamer. My older brother, who is 30 next month, so there's a bit of an age difference between the two of us, about 7 years, I think. I grew up from a very young age watching him play games, which naturally I'm going to fall into the same sort of habits. I'd bypass my bedtime by sitting on his bed and watching him play games until early hours of the morning. So it just came into adopting, the same sort of games he was playing. So that was sort of my entry into PC gaming, I suppose. Through the early stages of high school, I would play different titles to varying levels of success. League of Legends, I ended up taking to quite a high level when I was about 14 or 15. I did have the opportunity to go play in Anaheim, California for an academy team.
Wow.
So I did get to quite a high level. But at that point, there wasn't as much money or attention around esports in general. This is 8 years ago now, which is crazy to think back that it was that long ago. This was back in season 2 or 3 of League of Legends, so it's going back a long while. But because there was no security and not much funding around esports, it wasn't as hype as it is now. I didn't see the security or the longevity in a career, so I decided not to pursue esports as a career back then as a 15, 16-year-old. And I joined the army instead. So from 16, I joined the army. I did 5 years or close to 5 years and left just before my 21st. Before moving back to the island and doing a few bits and bobs. So I worked in a betting place that did sort of horse racing, greyhound racing, and learned sort of the inside of the e-gaming world, I suppose. Did some work as a data analyst, compliance analyst, then went into cybersecurity, and then did a full circle, ended up back in esports. I was still playing games recreationally from time to time, not nearly as much as I used to when I was a lot younger, and thought about stepping back in as a player before realizing that actually maybe my age would have got the better of me. My reflexes aren't quite as good as they used to be. There's young upcoming talent that are far better than I ever was. So I kind of, there was the reality check. And I thought, if I want to get involved in this industry, I could create an organization and foster young talent through the same system I went through when I was their age. which is kind of how X7 came to be. Realizing that I can't go in as a player, so to stay involved, I'll set up my own organization.
Josh, allow me to ask you this. I don't usually ask this, but that will make you 23 years old?
Yeah, so I'm 23, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Carmen, I think that you and I, we have to get retired right now.
I mean, I always look
old.
Me too. I always look at people's careers to ask them questions, but I don't usually look at their ages because, I mean, that's not so relevant. But in this case, you're like, you've gotten quite a career, almost professional pro player in League of Legends, in the army, then your own team.
Yeah, it seems a little bit overwhelming. Like my CV is a bit of a mess. It can be quite daunting. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, isn't it? It shows that I've got experience in a lot of different industries, but at the same time, to any prospective employer, they probably look at it and go, "Jesus, like, are you going to stick around, or are you going to go to something else in a year or two?" So yeah, I've had a fair share of experience in different things, so I'm quite fortunate.
Yeah, I noticed because it was like when you were telling everything, it was like, oh my God, that's a lot of different experience and different backgrounds and different fields. So it was like, oh my God, that's crazy. But first of all, of course, you came from the army, you kid for data, you have a lot of different backgrounds and feel differently. But I wanted to know, how was the point of why you, of course, you tell us a little bit like, oh, I wanted to create talent, that's why I create this team. But I wanted to tell us a little bit, how was the experience, why you decided, what was the point in your life that you say, yes, I want to develop this from the scratch, because you know how difficult it is to start your own business at the end, because a team is a business.
Yeah, so it's worth noting that X7 isn't my first business or company. I guess I can call it an enterprise because none of the previous projects I had were ever registered. So I guess they can be classed as enterprises or projects rather than registered companies.
Oh my God.
So yeah, my first was back in, and these are all gaming related as well. So my first was back in Minecraft when I was 14 years old with a friend from high school. And we had what started out as just a multiplayer server for us and a few friends. We quickly got quite bored of that and decided to release it to the public. So I'm okay saying this now. I decided to pretend being ill for 2 weeks and took 2 weeks off school and spent that time building basically the in-game landscape or environment for this server. That was kind of my forte in the game. I was quite creative. Built this in-game world and then later released it to the public. Within 8 weeks, that hit #1 in the UK and #3 in Europe in terms of popularity, and made us quite a lot of money for the age we were. So with that money, I then reinvested it into another project, which was in World of Warcraft and in PUBG, and now taking that those skills and experiences into League of Legends, I suppose. So X7 came about. I've always been a bit of a creative, as I said, so I knew I wanted a new project to keep me busy. Just a full-time job isn't enough. Yeah, just a full-time job, it just never seems to be enough for me. So I like something on the side. When I come home, there's something to keep me occupied. I don't like not having something to focus on. So with X7, I knew I like graphic design, I like web development, I like coding, etc. And so creating the aesthetic and branding for X7 was the first thing. I was playing around in Photoshop and coming up with logo ideas with no real concept or idea as to what the brand or company would be. I just wanted to create a brand or an aesthetic, and that's how it started. So X7 came about one night, thought it looked cool, did some different designs and stuff. Then I decided to build a website, and then I thought, right, what use can I give it? I had a strong passion in esports. I then realized I couldn't go in as a player, so I thought I'd create my own organization and then brought that brand with it. Built the brand, built the aesthetic, designed the jerseys, built the website, then started recruiting for the players, the managers, the coaches, etc., and brought it all together. Yes, and that was back in December last year. Time's gone very quick. Yeah, it's only been 9 months. Yeah, it's crazy.
And everything for keep you busy in the afternoon.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
You surely don't lose time, like.
Yeah.
No, yeah, and those closest to me will often, encourage me to take a break every day. But there's so much stuff I want to do and it seems as though there aren't enough hours in the day to get it done. All credit to them. They're only trying to look out for me. And I do have periods where I burn out. I think everybody does at some point. People deal with it in different ways, but I think I've become quite good at knowing when I'm about to burn out. And that's the point, I kind of take a step back, take some time off, be it once a month or something, but it happens from time to time.
I have to say, because Carmen and I, we know someone who actually is like you, and I think Emilio is someone pretty similar to you because he has in so many projects. It's actually in the chat. So Emilio,
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's actually our boss. He started this project, and it's actually, we say that sometimes it deserves a little bit of relaxing. So I think maybe one day you can met officially. So we hope
No,
for
100%.
this
I'd love
soon.
to meet him. Good to meet him.
So, Josh, we also have to mention Chris, who is in the chat here, our interview for last week. And this is something that we are going to get into more in depth later. But from the beginning, what role did Isle of Man play in development of Team X7? Did you decide to introduce them to the project early on? Did you wait a little bit? How did you do it?
So I've known Chris for well over a year, probably close to a year and a half or 2 years now, actually, and didn't meet him through X7. I met him through, I think, my full-time job, actually, or just knowing he was interested in esports, and we might have been connected, way before X7 anyway. Digital Isle of Man didn't really, they've been a huge help, and we'll get into that obviously later on. But they didn't play a huge part in the inception of X7. I'd like to take credit that X7 had been around for 4 or 5 months at that point before Digital decided to help support us. So yes, Chris was always there, and he was a great contact to have, and he still is. He sits as one of the advisors for me on X7, and he's been my right hand man from day one, really, throughout. And it was always good to identify what niche or area X7 could slot into on the island. I didn't create X7 to be the first esports org on the island. I actually had no idea. Nobody had done it before. So it was just a bonus USP, I suppose, that when I created the company and registered it in the UK, obviously we later then had an Isle of Man company and brought that brought the UK one as a subsidiary, that we ended up being the first and only professional esports org on the island. Then I caught wind that the Isle of Man government, have an initiative with Digital Isle of Man to grow esports on the island and put the Isle of Man on the map, on the global stage for esports. And I think it was a no-brainer to partner up with the first and only esports org, that are trying to achieve that same goal, is to put the Isle of Man on the map and help promote talent. So, it was kind of a no-brainer relationship, and I'm glad Chris saw it that way, and he was very helpful in, helping to facilitate those talks.
This is very interesting what you're mentioning, because you've hinted at that, but we have to say that Team X7 is one of the very first esports teams in the world being sponsored by the government of the country with us in. So that's quite interesting there, Isle of Man and you being partners. But if you want to, we can talk now about the team itself. So Yasmina, I think you've got quite a few questions in there.
Yeah, actually, the first one I would like to know, because of course our audience, maybe they would like to start a team, and they will love to know a little bit of the feedback, how was for you to create it. And also I would like to ask you, when you created this team, you were expected to be welcome in the community, because you know how hard it's actually to put your feet inside it.
100%. And I think, for those who are outside of the United Kingdom, obviously each region has its own ecosystem when it comes to esports, and that then breaks down into the different games as well. So you'll have your Call of Duty, your Fortnite, your League of Legends, etc. In the UK, it's kind of a running joke that there's a lot of drama in the UK scene, I suppose, and sometimes it becomes quite hard to become accepted. And there's a bar that's been set, and obviously you want to be able to treat people right and prove that to the community, that you're treating players fair and you're giving them good support. Because at the end of the day, the UK doesn't really produce a huge number of professional players in esports. A lot of the top European talent tends to be from Nordic countries like Sweden, Denmark, Finland, Norway, etc. And so the UK, although it represents maybe 8% of the global market share, we want to bump that up and start pumping out a lot more British talent, hopefully. So yeah, did we expect to be so welcomed? No, but I felt as though with the brand that we were creating, we thought it was very appealing, and I knew the caliber of players I wanted to attract. So I thought if we could put on a good show, which we ended up doing, we went undefeated in our professional debut. We built up the hype around us. We built up a good reputation. We've had nobody come out and say a bad word about us, which is rare in the UK scene because people love to write twit-longers and big drama posts about how they've been mistreated in different places. So thankfully we've been doing the right thing, and we'll continue to do that. We're supporting our players from the grassroots level all the way to the top. For a small organization like ourselves, teams don't often have performance coaches or nutritionists or positional coaches and these like extra support systems around them. So we're trying to go the extra mile and prove that to the community. So I think that's why we're kind of accepted more so than other orgs at our level.
That's great.
It is like really you bring in all this professional infrastructure to like what could start as more like an amateur team or your first team. That's really something to be proud of, and something I think all people could take as an example in your own teams with having running for like years already. So this is, you've given us a few clues, like that professionalism from the very beginning, starting off as a small team, warrior set, so the Isle of Man. But as a brand, what do you think makes Team X7 different?
I guess that leads nicely from my previous point, isn't it? It's setting a bar above the level we reside at. So we competed in something called the UK EL in summer just gone, and we're against some fairly reputable teams. Some have years and years of history. Some are fairly new, like ourselves. However, we're trying to go above and beyond and set a bar so that people in the community, when they leave us, and eventually players will go on to bigger and better things. They only have good things to say about us, and that then attracts bigger names to us, and we can then sign them and help raise their profiles. So we're really looking for people who invest in our vision and in my plan, my personal plan for X7, that want to grow with the organization and grow their own careers at the same time. What sets us apart is, obviously it's quite biased coming from me, but I think our aesthetic and our branding is really good. I think and this again is my own opinion, I think some organizations don't put enough time and effort into their appearance and aesthetic, and sometimes that can make them fall by the wayside because you need people to buy into your brand. You want them to wear your apparel on the streets or wear it to the gym or wear it out with their friends, not be embarrassed. You want to appeal to all demographics and everybody in the community. So yeah, we put a lot of effort into appealing to everybody and then trying to be as accommodating as possible.
Perfect.
Yes, it is.
Hopefully that answers your question.
It does completely.
Yes,
Like,
it does.
Yeah.
it's
So,
absolutely about brand, which is they want to ask you. So Yasmina, sorry, I think I
Yeah,
interrupted
I
you.
wanted to ask you the question, yours. Okay, so the first one is because I'm really curious, and I wanted to tell us a little bit why you decided to X7. The name of your brand at the end, well, the name of the team actually. Is there any history behind it? And the other question is more related because we see here in the chat, Chris, that you, as Carmen said before, he was our last guest, and we wanted to know, and you tell us a little bit, like the current, not the current situation, but a little bit what was your relationship with the digital Isle of Man. And we just wanted to know how is the current situation right now, how they help each other. If you can tell us a little bit how was it, because as Carmen said before, it's quite interesting to see a team that actually has the full attendance and a support of the government. That's quite nice. But first, I want to know the anecdote of your name.
Yeah, of course. And there's a lot of small reasons that then build up into why it was called X7. You know, I sort of picked from different hats. So 7 just happens to be my favorite number. 7 also happens to be the number of people involved in the project when we started. So it was 5 players, a coach, and myself. 7, that's a really nerdy fact, actually. 7 also happens to be my favorite group in the periodic table when I'm like obsessed over physics. So that was like, that's what I did at A level. So that's a little nerdy fact. X7 also happened to be an available domain, and I thought it was short and catchy. All these reasons were starting to build together. X then happened to be, I saw it as like a variable that's always changing, improving, adapting, etc. Taking it kind of from the maths world. You can see there's a common theme here. And that's kind of how it became X7. So I wish I could give you a more exciting story behind the name, but that's kind of how it came together. And I thought, because it's all from a branding perspective, and I created this, obviously, when I've got it in front of me in Photoshop, I'm trying X, the letter X and the number 7 in all different types of fonts, trying to figure out what's going to look good as a logo. It really helped. They were all clean cut, sharp edges. There's no curves. And from a branding perspective, I like that. You keep it clean, keep it sharp. And with X7, I was able to do that. So that's why the logo is fairly simplistic in a way, but it works, and I think it's quite attractive. Obviously, that's a biased opinion, but I quite like it.
And I love it. I hope our audience actually take your advice and see the public domain names that are free. You did the right thing. You did it.
So, talking about Team 7, of course, now you are not just Team 7, you acquired Bulldog Esports very recently. We saw that on your social media. But I think before you can explain this, why don't we watch a video where this can be shown? And I think it will also be very entertaining for our viewers. So let me bring this just in, we'll put it together, and then we'll talk about it.
Perfect.
This fight, because now their main damage dealer in the Stana is gone, and the fight's still going to happen anyway. But Casper gets wiped off the face of the earth, completely out of the gates of this fight. Another stun. Royals gets a quadra. He's got the ghost. He's the strike breakers. Enough of the pentakill.
Bulldog are going to solidify this one with 3 seconds left. They cannot contest. Bulldog are your champions of Insomnia 59.
Going to get slowed down. Lulis gets sped up momentarily. Very low Baron as DBL jumps into the middle of everyone. Looks for the lockdown, looks for the slam down. That is going to be Coach able to buy everything, and instantly they are melted. No one's alive.
Here we go. Crisis going to be knocking Ketsuo back towards, but lovely flash there. Buffer and tranquil over the wall, and all of a sudden it is Crisis who is in danger and taken down. Lovely response.
Okay, so I'm a little bit triggered by the fact that you didn't choose all the same skins for the champions in the end. Man, we can forgive you for that. But this is a very interesting situation, right? When two teams merge, many fans will have the doubt, like, what will happen to my team, to my players that I love, what will happen to the org? So can you guide us a little bit into how you acquired Bulldog Esports? And how does that work? Like, tell us about those insights.
So when the UKEL came to a close in the summer just gone, we were expecting to... Well, we were hoping to promote up into the UKLC, which is the league above. The only way to get a spot in the UKLC would be to buy one. If you hadn't promoted naturally, which we didn't, we fell short of that target. The only way was to buy your way in. So that was one of the reasons why I wanted to look for a merger or an acquisition. I did reach out to a number of different organizations. All of them showed interest, which is great. They really bought into the X7 brand and considered both a merge and an acquisition. I decided to go for the latter. Anthony, obviously, who's the former owner of Bulldog, or he is the founder of Bulldog Esports, and now works for X7. He comes from an army background as well, so he's been in the army for, I think, 15 years now.
Wow.
And he works in the operations room for Apache pilots. I was hoping to pursue to eventually become an Apache pilot. So we clicked almost instantaneously, and had those shared backgrounds and standards. We knew how we wanted to treat our players and staff and grow a brand. He's also been in the scene for 8 years, so he calls himself the granddad of UK esports, and he kind of is. He's been there, he's done it, he's seen it all. And I'm very open and honest. The only way I can grow as an org owner is to make mistakes and learn from them, or surround myself with somebody who's already made those mistakes and can guide me and veer me off in the other direction. And so having Anthony on board was a no-brainer. He seemed like a perfect fit for where I wanted to take the brand. He didn't have any players or other staff signed to him at the time, so it was just a case of bringing him over, and that was a huge asset for me. Probably the biggest asset of the deal was him being part of the deal. And then it later turned out that we weren't even going to get a UKLC spot because the whole league structure was going to be changed. And we'll get into that with all the NLC changes. So the UKLC just disappeared. But this deal had already been done before that news. And I think it really helped strengthen our application into the NLC. It showed that level of professionalism that we're looking to acquire another company, bring people on, build up our support infrastructure, and take it a lot more seriously than maybe some of the other orgs around us. Not to forget your question earlier, Yasmina, when you talk about digital, I kind of skipped over that because I have it just rambling on, so I went straight past that point. So digital, where do they slot in now? They are still our title sponsor, so we are still X7 Esports, powered by Digital Isle of Man, and that will run until the end of this year, the end of this calendar year, and then going into January of next year, so it will be spring split for us League of Legends fans. We are then again a blank canvas, so we're open to any discussions from companies who want to be on the face of the next biggest European esports organization. But digital will always play a part. They will always be our relationship will continue, and they'll always be there on our stuff as a supporter or a sponsor. And that probably won't ever go away. So it's good to have them involved. They've been an integral part of our growth and has given us a lot of credibility moving forward, be it discussions with sponsors, investors, or players and staff. Being the only European esports org backed by government and one of two, I think, in the world is a huge accomplishment, both for us and for the Isle of Man. So pretty proud of that.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, in connection with this, because of course, thank you so much for answering me. I don't forget my question. But I just wanted to know if you, for example, if the audience are following you and listen to you, what do you think is actually what makes you different and trustworthy of the government, actually? Because of course this is something that is not typical to see, but of course something you have for sure, because that's why I imagine that the Isle of Man is not doing this because you have a pretty face. I imagine that it's a work hard that you have behind. Of course, Cam. But of course we wanted to know if you can give us why you think that your team actually managed to have the trustworthy of a government, and if you can give some tips or maybe to all the audience that maybe are thinking of taking into consideration to start their own business in this kind of events like CEO as a team or something.
Yeah, of course, I'm in a very unique position, being on an island the size that we are and having our own government. It's a very unique position to be in, and I'm very fortunate to have grown up here and then later moved back. And I think I'm very well connected over here as well in both the private sector, government sector, and the majority of industries. Obviously, during my introduction, you found out how many different things I've done, so it helps for networking. For others, maybe in the UK, I don't know. The UK government definitely has an initiative and a drive to grow esports. That's a no-brainer. They're always posting for jobs and vacancies in the esports and gaming sector, and they have a big drive there. Whether I see a UK organization backed directly by the government, I'm not too sure. I mean, you've got big UK organizations like Excel, who are based in, I think, Twickenham Stadium in London, or they definitely have their HQ in London. They would be sort of the first org that springs to mind if the UK government was going to get behind a company like that. Yeah, I'm not too much. I'm not too sure about the legalities of it all. But I just knew that through the Isle of Man, they had a budget and initiative to grow esports on the island. I saw it as a no-brainer partnership. Adrian with the lovely comments.
Yeah, I see
I
that
just
actually is your pretty face at the end. Yes, I'm sorry.
So yeah, it's a hard question to ask because I don't know what the situation is with different governments in different countries. I know in Denmark, as an example, their government helps out teams and gives them sort of a what's the word, like a not a salary. I guess they do kind of give them like a bit of money each month towards their own initiatives. But those teams, I think, are named after the cities or the towns or the regions in which they're based. So instead of X7 being called, I don't know, Isle of Man or a city or a town on the Isle of Man, we are our own separate entity and registered company backed by a government. Whereas in Denmark, they have teams named after the region, and then the government will give them money to help fund their initiatives. So yeah, I don't know how it applies in other countries, but I hope more and more orgs, are being supported in the same way we are.
And maybe it's your charming personality, as Chris said. Not all have the charming personality.
So when it comes to partnerships, now that we're talking about this and the governments and so on, you mentioned before as well that in the UK, the esports scene is quite full of drama, perhaps we could call it like that. I mean, for when your team is collaborating with a government, do you think you have to be more strict with how you manage your social media and the image that your players and your staff show to the world, or does it change anything really?
Yeah, I know Chris is laughing when you ask that question because we obviously have had some players that are admittedly more vocal than others, let's say. You are dealing with young, volatile personalities, let's say. These are a lot of them are teenagers. Our youngest player was 16 when we signed him. Actually, that's a lie. The youngest player was 15 when we signed him, and he then later turned 16 whilst he was with us. But yeah, we have a few personalities that are a lot more vocal than others, is the best way to put it. And we have had to sort of tighten up on a few areas, but that's our job. We're looking to not only protect ourselves as a company and representatives of a government, but also to protect their personal brand. If they want to progress and follow a career path in esports, we will do everything we can to help protect them as players, them as individuals. Otherwise, they will start attracting the wrong sort of attention from the community. And in a culture we are right now, which is like cancel culture, and it's rife everywhere, if you get somewhere and you make it, there will be dozens of people waiting around to take the opportunity away from you because they don't have that same opportunity. So we want to make sure we give our players the best possible chances of succeeding, and if that means telling them to delete a certain tweet or a post they put out, then that's something they need to live with. But we're doing it for the right reasons, and that's to protect them and us at the end of the day. So yeah, there's definitely a bit of, in the back of my head, I'm thinking, yeah, that can't go. That needs to slide. So we try and keep on top of it as best we can. But players will be emotive when they play games. It's just part of the thing.
I mean, as long as they're not just kind of blaming the own organization on Twitter, like we've seen some LEC players lately. I think that's fine. I think that's
exactly. Yeah, and I think for bigger organizations, they've obviously got a whole team that are dedicated to due diligence and background checks, and they will scour through all of your profiles. For us at this level, that sort of commitment the time commitment is astronomical when you're going through these players. So we trust in our references. So through our due diligence process, when we bring players on, we'll go out and contact all of their previous teams, their previous teammates, managers, coaches, and really get a good understanding and an honest interpretation as to what they're like as people, both in the game and away from the game, because it's all good and well having a very talented player, but if they step away from their screen and they're the most toxic, they're just a toxic person to be around, that doesn't fit in with our ethos and our culture here. So we want to make sure we find a balance. So that's kind of what we're looking for.
I thought you were going to say that you asked the parents and the teachers. And
No.
Okay.
Well, it's on the option.
It is.
True, yeah. I'm sure they give it honest feedback.
So, Josh, I would like to ask you, for example, because I know that, well, we know that you are trying to enter the LC. Sorry if I pronounce it incorrectly.
No, it's fine.
But not but one, but for 2 rosters. So we wanted to know a little bit how is the current situation, and if it's really difficult to get inside, what are your tips?
Yeah, so the NLC and how it's been structured now, it came about at a really weird time. We obviously competed in the UKEL and we didn't make it to the UKLC. So we were kind of out of the running anyway. We were just sitting back, waiting for the off season to finish, which would have been all the way from August through to December. So in my head, I thought I had 5 months, and that was great. I was going to plan multiple different teams or really 2 teams in different games. We were going to branch out. We were going to build up our League of Legends roster for the next split. And I thought I had tons of time to get content planned, plan trips and all sorts. Then all of a sudden, within a week or 2, we get this announcement dropped on our desk out of nowhere that said, by the way, all of the promotion tournaments for UKLC and NLC and UKEL aren't happening anymore. Although that didn't affect us directly because we weren't involved in it, it was a big shock and we didn't really know what was going on until 3 days later. Riot and the NLC made their announcement that the UKLC and UKEL kind of wouldn't exist anymore. And the same for other Telia regions in Nordic countries. And they were going to structure Northern Europe very much like the other regions around the world. So you've got the LFL in France, you've got Prime League in Germany, you've got EBL in the Balkans region. And so NLC was then going to be structured, a Division 1, a Division 2, a Division 3, etc., rather than it all being spread across different countries. The UK having their own scene, all of the Nordic countries having their own leagues. They were just going to put it into one. At the end of the day, I agree with those changes. I think they're fantastic, and it's what we need to build the viewership and sort of unite all of the leagues together. I think for the longevity of esports in this region, I personally agree with it. However, the timing at which it was done, I don't agree with. I would have liked to see certain teams promote and or relegate and find out where they would have been placed before making the announcement, and give teams like us and every other team a chance to plan a budget, to plan a team, to prepare for what was going to be make or break. So NLC Div 1, the only way to get in is by submitting an application. It's not open for anyone. It's the top level of this region. So you're playing with LEC academies, big teams like Excel, Astralis, next split. Fnatic have just left and gone to the Prime League.
True. They've come with to the Superliga.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I thought they'd gone to Prime League. Okay.
Not getting the best systems.
Exactly. So you got the insider info. So Fnatic have obviously left but gone to a different region. But it's still saying that we've got LEC academies at that level. So the organizations that are lucky enough to be a part of that have to prove in their application deck that 1, they can sustain an organization at that level, and 2, they can contribute to that ERL system and that ecosystem as much as all the other players. And that'll come down to your infrastructure, your funding, your current activity, and your future activity. So we made a deck. I did about 3 weeks of, and if any of my staff are watching this stream, they would back me up and say that I did about 21 days straight, 20 hours minimum each day. I think I averaged probably about 3 hours sleep for 21 days. About 400 hours of work went into it, and it was liaising with anyone you can think of: players, managers, coaches, lawyers, investors, sponsors, everyone you can think of, to try and put on the table, our best shot. Because effectively it would cut out a year and a half of my business plan. We could go from 3rd Division UK to 1st Division Europe in the space of one split, which I don't think any team has had the opportunity to do ever. I need to do a bit more research into that, but if that becomes a USP that we could hold on to, that would be amazing. We go from a rookie team to playing with LEC academies within a year of the company being created. That's quite an achievement. And then, yeah, we'd like to put an academy team through the Division 2 bracket as well, which is open to everybody. I think there's 150 teams that have already signed up to that.
Wow.
And there's only 10 teams that are going to be allowed to play. So it's going to be a bit of a tough competition for that one. But the announcement for the NLC Div 1, that's due to go out tomorrow. And so it'll become apparent to everyone who has been accepted. I think they've invited 8 teams, 8 or 11 teams into that league structure. And there'll be a tournament that runs next month to decide who's going to end up in that league. But yeah, that'll all become apparent tomorrow evening, I think, at some point, whether we've been accepted or not.
Best of luck to you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Actually, I think that if the audience can follow you and see what is the result at the end, that will be nice.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, we'll be putting out a website article and everything following the announcements, whether we make it or not. So if anyone's interested in that, then be sure to follow our socials or the website. It'll go live tomorrow night. So
yeah, okay. And what happens? I mean, of course, getting to NLC is such a big thing. It will be something real big to tackle. So, setting that aside, what are your short and long-term plans for the team to expand the brand? Because you've talked about, okay, if you make it to NLC, but what if you didn't make it? Like, what are the other plans that you've got? And even if you make it, what are you planning?
Short-term goals, obviously, to make the NLC. Not only the tournament, but to then qualify. So the short-term goal would be to build a team, which we're in the process of, building a team that's capable of qualifying and putting on a performance, hopefully winning the tournament, but that's not necessary. There's 5 spots up for grabs, so we only need to finish in the top 5 of 16 teams, which I think is very reasonable and possible for the team I'm looking to build. Long-term goals, we are looking to branch into at least 2 other titles. We have been trialing teams in different games over the last few months. I've been liaising with managers and coaches in those respective titles, looking to bring them onto X7, and then branching out. I didn't want to spread myself, too thin too quickly, which is why our focus for the last 9 months has just been League of Legends. But once we've cemented ourselves as being a pretty fierce competitor in league, hopefully at the top European level, I think that's a good time to then stick our foot in another game somewhere else and try and replicate the process. But yeah, I'm not going to give any clues away as to what those games might be. I know you're smiling and you're hoping me to give you some.
You can do it right now.
I can tell you one of them. Is an FPS.
Okay, now which one it is?
Please, Carmen, tell me.
I know that doesn't narrow it down at all. It could be a lot of different games. But yeah, an FPS is on the card.
I think Carmen could be really a good detective actually. So later.
I think I know what titles they are. I mean, at least one of them.
Another question. Sorry, Carmen, go ahead.
No. I was just saying that I kind of know which one is one of the titles. I'm not gonna say it. It's like mystery going.
You might know, or I might just be bluffing. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's an obvious choice.
Yes, thank you. Well, maybe I know. So while Yasmina is coming back, Yasmina, are you here with us? I think I cannot hear her. And if you can, Josh.
No. I can. Just about. Again? She's moving again. There we go. She's back.
Yes.
And she's gone. She came back for a second.
It's just gone again. But I mean, I can try and get information from you in the meantime. Is one of the games starting with a V?
I'm not giving anything away. I'm sorry. I'm not that easy to crack. I'm sorry.
I just sent Yasmina and came back here to save you from her.
I know, exactly. Save me for the interrogation.
Yes.
I'm so sorry
But no,
about that.
I can't give anything away.
Okay, we get it. It's
They'll
okay.
be
But you
hopefully
can
by the end
say
of the year that'll become obvious.
well,
Yasmina,
maybe we
you're
can have
supposed here to be here. Save him, not to keep on berating him with questions about this game.
Okay. So then we focus on another question. Of course, you tell us a little bit about the team. So now we would like to know a little bit if you have any plans for short or large that you're planning for your brand, how to expand it. Just a little bit of spoil. If you can tell us here in Esports Business Live, that would be nice.
I think
Like the
now
games.
that well, but the games aside, I think now that borders, now with COVID sort of, I'd say dying away, it's becoming
Dying.
less of an issue in terms of travel restrictions, especially for
Yeah.
us. I know Chris said on his appearance last week, we were very fortunate on the island being able to continue very much as normal on the island. We were very good at containing it. And there were very, strict punishments if anyone broke those isolation rules over here. So everybody looked out for each other, and we went the best part of a year and a half with no restrictions at all. No masks, no social distancing. Every shop, club, pub, everything was open as normal. Which, when you look around, even the UK, England and Ireland, which are either side of us, they're living in complete chaos. Everyone's in lockdown. They can't leave their homes, and we were very, very fortunate. Obviously, we had our own little outbreaks, but that didn't really lead to much more than 2 or 3 weeks, of lockdown, and then we came back out. So we're very fortunate to be in an island so small. And now the travel restrictions have eased off. I think we'd be looking as an organization to make more content, which means that myself, obviously going off island quite a bit, got a lot of players and staff in and around the London area and up and around the Midlands. Also got players all around the country, all around the continent. So Austria, Bosnia. We're looking to sign players. I was about to say what countries they're from, but that'll give it away. In different European countries as well. So we'd be looking to relocate them together and do some, get a videographer, photographer, and get some, really good quality content put out to fans. And I think that's what's going to set us apart as well. Not enough organizations, I think, put time and effort into their content. Everyone can sit at their desk like I could and edit a video or a cinematic or something, but to actually get your players together in one location, obviously it involves quite a big budget, depending on where they live and where you want to do that content. But also the drive and enthusiasm to actually go out and do that. If you could put it in your players' hands to make their own way there, it's not as though if you're a small scale organization, you don't have to pay for everything. You just want to find the players and staff that share your vision and want to make good content. So yeah, I think moving forward for us, how we take that next step is making better content, and that's the first step.
And a very important one as well. You've covered a little bit the topic about Corona and how the situation has been for you guys. So on to a lighter topic. Well, I want to ask you to this relocating idea that you've got in mind, this relocating plan. It is quite interesting because we see many organizations actually do kind of the opposite, especially when it comes to the players, right? Like gaming houses, then gaming houses no more. Now it's apartments. Then everyone gets their own apartment. So I was thinking, how are you guys wanting to face that? Is that in mind for you as well? Like, are you thinking about bringing also the players there, and perhaps having a gaming house?
Yeah, so it's definitely a plan in the works and has been since I started X7. Being the first org over here, we'd also be the first gaming house facility, training facility, etc. that would be built here, or a space already that exists and we just repurpose it as a training facility, for which there are many good locations on the island already that we could kit out and make work in the way we want it to. So yeah, it's definitely a plan. We'd like to, in my plan, it's as early as spring split next year, or maybe in the off season after spring, to boot camp all of our players here. So that'll be relocating them from all over the world, wherever they are, to the Isle of Man for maybe 3 months, 2 to 3 months, boot camp them here together with the staff, make a bunch of content whilst they're here and together, and it becomes a lot easier. And I think building upon that synergy is only going to bring better results for them as a team if they're playing together side by side in the same room and being able to go out, for meals together or on a night out together, or it's
Way.
well, it's obviously we need to check what age they are first, because some of these players some of them aren't 8 actually. Okay, all the players that I'm looking to sign are all 18, so that's fine. But yeah, it's having that synergy and bringing them all together, and not a lot of orgs are able to do that. I'm hoping that we can facilitate that with X7 on the island next year at some point.
That sounds really cool. Yes, I want to visit the island even more. We were talking about this with Chris. Like, we want to go to the island. Everyone seems to love the fresh air there. Like, they were talking so nicely about it. So I want to go there as well.
At the end, maybe we are going to be on holidays. Christmas in Isle of Man. I see that. So, Josh, before I ask you, I wanted to just remember to our audience that if they want to make any questions, please now just drop it in the comments, and we will put it at the, we went just 5 or 10 minutes before we left the presentation. So now I just wanted to ask you, I think it's a typical question, but of course, which requires do you ask for your members of your team to be, in order to be part of the team? Like, what are you searching for? Of course, everyone looks for quality and good procedure and good at video games, of course. But at the end, if there is all the requirement that you wanted to search for a person or for a good candidate.
Yeah, I was about to start answering that question by saying it's game specific, but I don't think it is. I think the same qualities that we're looking for apply no matter what game we're looking to recruit. So obviously, we've only been looking for League of Legends players. That's all our focus has been recently. Although we are trialing teams behind the scenes in other titles. For League, for League, what we've been looking at are players. Yes, they have to be able, they've got to have a good understanding of the game they play. Competitive experience is a huge bonus for us. Being able to cope under the pressure, strenuous conditions. If they've been in that environment before, then chances are they can learn from it or have learned from it, and perform better under pressure. In the UKL that we competed in summer, we had 5 rookies with no experience, no competitive experience. And although we went 10-0 and had an undefeated debut, the second we got that first loss, you could tell some of them had never experienced a loss before. And that started to snowball a little bit. So our real goal going into this next split or next tournament is to find 5 very experienced veteran players, really, who've been there, done it all before, and work well as a team. In terms of individual qualities and traits, we're looking for people with good work ethics, good ethos, and those that will work each other as hard as they want to work. We've got some really strong talent that have actually already signed for us, but we will announce that in the coming days. That will get up very early hours of the morning. They'll have cold showers. They'll go to the gym. They'll start training and working and improving themselves. And they'll try and pick up those around them, and make their teammates better players and people, both in and out of the game. So it's finding the right personalities that fit together. You've got to be a good person and a good player. That's kind of what we're looking for.
And also someone who tolerates someone else telling them to take a cold shower in the early hours of the morning.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. Cold showers are not a requirement.
Wow.
That's good to know, at least.
We're just looking for people who have good work ethic, and are good for us as a brand as well. We want to be proud of the people we're putting in front of ourselves and who are representing us, and the government, obviously, as being part of X7. And so, yeah, I think we've picked some pretty good people, which we're looking forward to announce soon.
Okay, so just because we have a little bit of time left, I do want to ask you about, many of the questions that we usually get are like, how did you do this? How did you get into esports? How did you went on to being a team owner or a player, so on? So I want to ask you, what advice would you give to a newcomer who wants to create his own team? What would be the do's and don't do this?
I would say, I mean, I was quite fortunate having played League of Legends in the past and built up quite a good pool of contacts. I would say if you're going into creating an organization for yourself, try your best to lean on people who've done it before or are already within the scene. It's not so much what you know, it's more who you know, especially in esports. Even being able to sit down with somebody who might be a manager or a coach for a team, they can give you that small bit of insight into whatever game you're looking to get into or start with, and can help veer you off bad tracks and going down, the wrong path. For me, I lent on dozens of people that are either current org owners, professional players, coaches, etc., all the way up to LEC level or worlds level even. And not everybody's going to have access to those sort of contacts, but in esports, you'll always know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody, and eventually you'll be at the top of the food chain anyway, just through mutual contacts. And it's like that in any industry. If you want to get into esports, I'd just say speak to people who've done it, learn from them, and don't be afraid to take the first step. It sounds very cliche, doesn't it? But don't be afraid to take the first step, because every business has to start with a first step. And I think two people, as a perfectionist myself, the hardest part is making that first step, because it's not perfect and it's always going to change and grow. So the hardest part for me is putting something out there that I know isn't the final product, and it probably never will be, because it's always going to change and improve. So yeah, I just think just go for it, and learn from your mistakes. I've made some along the way, but it's about how you. God, so many cliches in there. How you bounce back from them. But yeah, it's true. These are all true sayings. So yeah, just go for it and lean from people who've got experience.
Oh,
Yes, we have a question, but before, Chris, I'm sorry, I have to be the last one. So we wanted to know a little bit about the future of your team, of the X7. We would like to know if you can spoil us everything, or some news, or some things that are going to arrive here at esports. This is the occasion, if you want to say something.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you have something. That's nice.
Yeah. There's things I want to say, but I'm actually not allowed to say. But it will become apparent. Yeah, it will become apparent very, very soon. Is all I'll say. But it's good news. That's as much as I can say. So, yeah,
that's what matters.
You're gonna tell a little bit nothing.
No, I can't go into any more detail, I'm afraid.
He cannot tell us the game. He can tell us the good news.
Why are you here?
I'm bored. I mean, he's replied to quite a few questions, like 1 hour straight.
It's true. Okay. I'm going to relax myself a little bit. Okay.
Let's give him a little bit of space break. We can give him that space while we're waiting. Chris Kingett's question: what opportunities or benefits do X7 offer a sponsor who's looking to enter esports for the first time?
Yeah, so of course that would depend on what industry that sponsor falls under. We're looking at various options. We're looking at food and beverage sponsors. We're looking at hardware sponsors. We looked at cryptocurrency, fintech sponsors. So they really, the benefits vary. In terms of exposure, I think X7 being the only European organization backed by government is a huge USP to lean on, and gives us a lot of credibility. And I can't see in the short term any other countries getting behind an individual organization. I understand we're in a very unique position, being the size that we are, so it'll be interesting to see when another government will make that same sort of commitment. Also, if X7 can make it into NLC Div 1, and if we qualify, hopefully, then there is potential that X7 could go on to European Masters in spring next split. Wow. And then we would have jumped within a year of the organization being in existence to be playing on the top European level below the LEC. That'll be a huge USP as well to run by. So I think for a sponsor, in terms of exposure, you've got a lot of USPs to run by. We're very unique as a team. We put a lot of effort into the development and support of our players and staff. we have a very good reputation. No one's come out and said a bad word about us yet, and hopefully no one ever will, because we're always striving to do our best. Touch wood as I touch my desk. But yeah, I think there's a lot of exposure opportunities, and we're looking to grow very quick. So it's an exciting time, a pivotal time really, to get involved with us, because we're looking to expand very quick in the next 12 months.
Okay, we'll keep an eye on you, on what you do.
Definitely.
Should.
And as you can see, there are people who actually trust the product that you're provided. As you see here, Chris saying,
no, Chris, no, Chris is a good friend of mine. So I actually went to university with Chris. But he's heavily involved he's had his own organization, Invulnerables. He now works with, I think, Riddle in the NLC. So Chris, he was somebody I lent on heavily, in the early days when I created X7. Him and a few others were a great help in answering questions I had and directing me in the right way. So yeah, credit to him for getting me to where I am right now.
So, hi Chris, nice to meet you again. So I think we are running out of time now. So I'd like to ask you for the last statement for this interview.
Yes, we just wanted to say, if there is anyone who wants to make a quick question, and if not, it has been really a pleasure to have you here, Josh. It has been really interesting. We are going to keep an eye, because even if you didn't tell us anything, well, of course you answer our question, but there are some things that I think maybe we have to keep an eye and be maybe in a 2 or 3 days, maybe to see what you're putting in LinkedIn and other platforms. So we would like to say to our audience that please follow him.
Yes.
Because we're probably going to give, because I think he's going to give us some news, some pretty good news. But it's a shame that they didn't say here.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you guys, but yeah, in the next 24 hours, it'll become apparent, I think. Good things coming.
It's a shame.
So whether tomorrow's resolution is good or bad for you, I mean, it is not bad, right? You learn from it. But whatever happens, the best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
If you don't make it to the LC, we'll be watching you. If not, we'll see you in other competitions for sure of it. So I think that's all the time we've got now, Yasmina.
Yeah, I think we have to actually cut it, but it has been really a pleasure here. Oh no, we have a last question. Okay, I don't know if it's okay. I make the honor.
Yes.
So during your time in the army, people facing video games, or it was uncommon?
Actually, I don't know whether this is what people expect, but there were a lot of people that were interested in video games. When people found out what I'd done prior to joining the army, a lot of people questioned why I even joined the army in the first place, because I could have gone on to, I was being paid to play video games, and that's what a lot of them would have liked to have been doing, but they instead pursued a career in the military for various reasons. So yeah, people definitely are interested in playing video games. You'll have your own niches. You'll have the sporty people that like to play NBA and FIFA and games like that. You'll have the people who are diehard Call of Duty fans and CS:GO fans, and that's just why they love firing weapons in real life as well. On a range, and maybe that's why they're enthusiasts and they go in that way. And then you've got people like me who played more like League of Legends and more like MMOs, those sort of titles. So yeah, it's not uncommon at all. There's people who are interested in video games all over the place.
Okay, so thank you for replying to that one last minute question. So it says that we have to be closing the show, because otherwise we get a little bit of we will get told about it. So in any case, we're gonna just leave you a little bit in backstage while we say goodbye, and then we'll talk to you. Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for having us. Bye. Okay, Yasmina.
Has been really excited to actually have him, Josh, here, and of course it has been a pleasure to work with you, Carmen. So we have to say goodbye to everyone. Please don't remember that tomorrow the workers are coming back. So please see them. And if you like the content, of course, follow us for see more content related with this sport. And well, what else I can say, Carmen?
Yeah, well, from Walkers, I think this week we'll already have every single show on. So Walkers, marketing, corporate, and also news. So yeah, we've got everyone on board with that. And aside from that, yeah, I think that's it, Yasmina.
I think we actually have to say goodbye. So
Yes.
has been a pleasure. So see you, Carmen, for the next week, and we will have more international. And remember to actually come tomorrow for workers and for new adventures.
Bye.